and welcome to For the Culture. It's your girl, MzMuah.
And I'm the Diva.
And For the Culture is the conversations that you are having in the barbershop, in the beauty shop, at the barbecue, in the backyard, at church, wherever you kick it at. Those conversations, that is what For the Culture is. And tonight we are talking all about forgiveness.
Great topic.
Make sure that you are liking, sharing, and following us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and New Beat Radio. Shout out to New Beat Radio and
Hi.
Steve and everybody over there. Thank you so much for having us on that platform as well. You can catch us on YouTube tomorrow. And you can catch us right here on Facebook Live every Monday at 7 o'clock. It is Monday.
It is Monday. It is Monday.
Woo! This topic tonight.
Yes.
It's so important.
It is.
It's so relevant.
Very.
And it's so necessary.
Let's go.
You ready?
Let's go.
Okay, so you guys know week to week, like we do studying, we talk, we have these conversations on what are we gonna give the people, like what is something that we want to talk about. And so we were throwing all these topics around.
Yes.
And usually when we come up with that one, it's like ding, 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 ding.
Like that's it right there.
That's it. And so tonight it's all about forgiveness. And this is just, it's time.
It's time. It's time.
So let's do it. So I got some questions for you.
Okay.
Hopefully you humor me a little bit. Shout out to our sponsors, which is Gems and also Legacy Collection. I'm trying to get things out tonight.
Yes.
I want to ask you, when you think of forgiveness, what do you think of?
Letting go.
Okay.
In layman's terms, I think of letting go. And the reason why I say letting go is because if you haven't forgiven a person and or a situation, it holds space in your head. And sometimes we even have to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
There you go.
I came up with a plethora of things.
Okay.
I think of peace, growth, freedom, grace, healing, understanding,
Yes.
maturity, separation, communication, self-love, love, empathy, sympathy, turning the page, starting over, believing, trusting, faith, and testimony.
Run it down. Come on with it. Yes. Love it.
And the reason that I do is because I just put forgiveness out there. And I'm like, okay, what does it require?
Right.
And then what happens because of it? And what happens if it's not around?
Yes.
And so that's how I came up with all those words.
Well, I would say definitely all of them are very much on point because each of them are a part of forgiveness.
Yeah. So who are the most important people to forgive? Help us help each other.
I would definitely say I've learned in my older years, definitely forgiving yourself. That's the most important person to forgive, is the person that you look at in the mirror every day. Forgive yourself. Not only do you need to forgive yourself for things that you have done that you may need forgiveness for, even if that other person, or if you've done something against another person and they haven't forgiven you, you have to forgive yourself. And then another part of that is I say forgive yourself if you've been the victim of something.
Yeah. You got a disclaimer for us tonight, don't you?
I do have a disclaimer. So,
all right.
Lipstick Entertainment, the show host, nor any of us current members are medical professionals. Okay? So these are simply our views, and we always advocate for you to seek professional help, especially if it's in a situation of abuse or mental illness or the like.
Thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
And so we're talking all about forgiveness tonight, and we're going to give you our twos and fews on forgiveness and just examples. And let's just kind of get this going around in our community, because I think sometimes as a culture, we can kind of struggle with forgiveness.
Yes. And I think I go back to even a little bit of my spiritual roots when it says, if you have it all with your brother, take it to your brother, versus holding on to that.
Yeah.
I can even go to the other side of things in being married or in a relationship and your significant other and going to bed mad at that person. And how many people woke up and one of the persons did not wake up, and you have this thing of unforgiveness going on, even with other family members. So, it's just, there are definitely reasons why you should forgive.
So my answer to the question was forgive yourself, forgive your loved ones, forgive people that you want to keep a relationship with, and also forgive the people that have hurt you.
Yes, definitely.
I think all of those are really, really important.
Very much so.
Why do you think forgiveness is so important?
I think it plays a part of the mental psyche. And the reason why is because, at least I can speak for myself, and I'm sure you very much are the same, because I know our personalities. Mm-hmm. We tend to analyze things.
Yeah.
So if you haven't forgiven a situation, you're going to keep analyzing it, replaying it, and then it can become unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
If you have not forgiven yourself and or another person.
Yeah. I said it stunts your growth. So basically what you said. I mean, it sits, it festers, and what it does is it makes you go in that mental circle, like you're saying.
Yes.
And so you can't really move forward because you're too busy stuck in whatever experience, trauma, disagreement, heartbreak, whatever it was. And so forgiveness is extremely important because you got to be able to move and do you. And so if you hold on to that, how can you do that?
And I try to be a positive person as a whole, because that's just who I am.
Yeah.
Thank God. But whoever you serve, I'll put it out there.
Yeah.
But then without living in forgiveness, that really can't alter your personality even. So that's another reason why I say
you gotta get out of my head. Okay, so does all forgiveness look the same though?
No.
Okay, talk about it.
My version of forgiveness can be totally different from yours.
Okay.
I can actually say now in my life, I can forgive a person and never deal with them again.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people that I will forgive and will move forward.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the situation, what has happened.
Yeah.
The part I played in it, the part they played in it, that kind of a situation. And again, it goes back to, like you were saying, self-care and forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
So, if it's something that was minute, definitely not worth crying over, definitely not worth losing a friendship or relationship over, I'm going to forgive that person and we're going to move on.
Yeah. I totally agree with you when you said that forgiveness looks different in different situations. I am exactly the same way. I try to give everyone grace in situations. And even when I'm giving advice to my sister friends and whoever, I try to tell them to give others grace.
Yes.
But if you've been in a situation where it is painful, you can experience that pain, you can experience that trauma, you can forgive them, but they do not have to have that reconnection, like you said. They do not have to be extremely close to you. Or there are other people that you can say, you know what, I forgive you, but I forgive you from somewhat of a distance.
Yes.
You will not be as close as you once were to me, or you will not have as much access to me as you once did based on, the situation at hand. I saw this really cool quote that says, and I want to know what you think. Forgiveness is giving up the idea that it could have been any different.
Wow. That's powerful. That's actually very powerful. And what I was kind of thinking of, and you're in my head on that one, is because forgiveness to me equates also to trust.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what that's saying.
Yeah.
I forgive you enough to trust that you won't do that to me again, maybe.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I was battling with some serious forgiveness issues. And in doing that, I think it kept me going in a circle mentally. Mm-hmm. And it also kept me asking the person without asking the person, well, why did you do this?
Right.
Why did you do this? And I think sometimes we want answers and we want closure and we want all of that. And we may not get it from that person.
Very true.
And there even came a point where, because there was a whole little crew that came together against me, honey. But anyway, that's how you know you powerful. But anyway.
Wow, how about that?
But anyway, I began to ask the question, why did you do this? And they didn't even know.
Wow.
So sometimes we're looking for these answers and we're looking for like this gratification and we're looking for we want to close the door, but we need this stuff first. And sometimes people don't even have the stuff to give us.
And kind of like what you're saying, that's why it's important to forgive yourself, because in that situation, really there was no reason why.
Yeah.
It sounds like that they were even to the point where there was an out.
Yeah.
But you had to forgive yourself for your role in the situation, whatever they felt.
Yeah.
And you were able to move on.
Yeah.
So see how powerful that is?
Yeah. But also, too, with us saying forgiveness doesn't look the same, sometimes they have done things to you.
Yes. Yes.
And so in that situation, you do have a reason to have this resistance, right?
Yes.
Because you have harmed me, or you have hurt me, or you have stole from me, or whatever the case may be. And so now there is the break in trust, like you were saying, and now there has to be this level of separation because they've shown you that they don't deserve to be that close for whatever reason.
Exactly.
So how did you learn how to balance whatever that barrier is?
So I'll go just a little bit personal.
Okay.
In this situation, and I promise I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna be savage about it today. I'll be
Okay.
savage.
Okay.
But you know, there was a situation where there could have been incest in the family.
Okay.
And of course, I will not name any names. You know, at the time that it was happening, I trusted the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a child, you do trust your relatives.
Yeah.
And that's such a scary situation because us as a culture
Mm-hmm.
really tend to shun or shelter or ignore
Yeah.
incestual things that happen.
Right.
And it is an illness. It is a sickness. It is never okay
Right.
for an adult to touch a child, for one,
Mm-hmm.
especially a relative.
Yeah.
You know, that, you know, you've been left in care. So, you know, as I got older, and I did seek a therapist at that time, you know,
Yeah.
as I got older, just a whole bunch of life experiences happened. You know, I'm not going to tell you my whole jush tonight, you know, but
that's for the book.
that's
later.
for the book later. There you go. But you know, I had to forgive that person because, you know, I found myself at family functions and these people would be there.
Mm.
You know, so me being who I am, my face tells everything.
Yeah.
You know, so I had to release that because it was to the point where you really could see that I was tense every time
Yeah.
these individuals would come around.
Right.
You know, and that was something that I had to forgive.
Yeah.
I had to look at it as that they are sick.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
But again, with that, I also had to love them from a distance.
Yeah.
I had to forgive them, but keep them at a distance. And, you know, that meant, you know, as I got older and I had kids, you don't come around my kids, you don't come
Yeah.
around my family, you don't come to my house.
Right.
You just don't.
Right.
You know, and a lot of my family members are like, you act funny. You know, I'm very protective of me and mine.
Yeah.
And I am that way for a reason.
You know what's not funny, but where I can understand that is myself dealing with the same situation, being sexually abused as a child at the hands of family, right? Mm-hmm. You do get this guard,
Yes.
right? And so as you age, you kind of are like away because of the different things that have, you know, occurred around you. And then even with your kids, you're like, oh no, they don't need to go around, or we don't need to be long, or whatever. And people don't understand that.
Exactly.
But they don't understand that that's trauma. And so trauma, it kind of affects a person a certain way. So you may move differently based off of the things that have happened.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
And so we just rolled right into my next question.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. If you're just tuning in, this is For the Culture. You can catch us right here on Facebook Live every Monday at 7 p.m.
Yes.
And on New Beat Radio on Thursdays and Saturdays at 10 a.m. Please like, share, follow, and we appreciate you so much. So, why is forgiving yourself so important?
It's easy to make yourself be not the victim in the situation. And when I say victim, I don't want you to be stuck in being a victim. I want you to become a victor.
Yeah.
But for this point, I will say, you know, it's easy to say in those kind of situations, or some kind of trauma situation, or some kind of abuse situation, that, well, I did this and that's why this happened.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't have wore this and this is why this happened.
Yeah.
Or I should not have been in this situation where I was at their house or this place and this is why this happened. Or my parent should not have left me with this person and it would not have happened.
Yeah.
It's easy to be resentful if you don't forgive.
That word.
Yes.
Did y'all hear that? Resentment?
Yes.
Come on, Beyonce. You got a whole song about it.
Ow.
Definitely piggybacking off of what you said, forgiving yourself is super important, because if not, you'll be in bondage.
Yes. For sure.
And you'll have these scenarios running through your head. You'll have anger. You'll have resentment. You'll have all of these things going on. And yes, therapy is definitely a major help. I've experienced it myself several times. And if I need to go back and knock on another door and sit on a couch, I will. Because healing is more important than ego.
There you go.
And so I'd rather heal and get through it and figure out the coping mechanisms to do that than just go off of what other people think it's safe. Because you're not up here. You're not going to help me or my mental health.
Exactly.
But also forgiveness is really important too. Now, this is just my personal opinion, okay? Y'all don't send me no hate mail and you don't look at me crazy. I feel like I am the person that is going to be with me the longest.
There you go. And that's a very true statement.
And so if I don't like me for whatever reason, or I haven't forgiven myself for whatever reason, I'm going to have a hard life.
Very true.
Because I'm not leaving me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I think us like peeling back layers, healing, accepting things as they are, and not as we want them to be.
Yes.
And moving forward is very important. Because if you don't, you're going to run in a mental cycle. Have you ever met a person that you feel like they live the same year over and over and over and over again? Yes. Those people, to me, represent unforgiveness.
I would agree 120%. Definitely.
Because how is it that you're still mad today about something that happened many, many years ago? That means every single year since then.
Yes. You have lived, recycled.
You have been feeling and living this way.
Yes.
Another thing, too, is you talked about, people having rent and space in your head. You cannot look at yourself as the enemy, because if you do, the people that you are around will be affected by those behaviors. And also, your future endeavors will be affected by those. When you have unforgiveness and it's just sitting on you, especially with yourself, there's kind of like this moody, kind of grouch feel that you give off. And you can just push people away, or you can push opportunities away.
Definitely. Because
your mind is not where it needs to be, because you're keeping so many things. I think things happen to us and they remind me of a cake, maybe, and 1 layer is cool, and 2 layers is great, and 3 layers is, but 20 layers now. Now listen.
Wow, that's a lot of cake. I'm just saying.
That might be too much.
Yes.
To try to take on, right?
Yes.
So we got to start unpacking some things.
Very true.
And getting rid of some layers, even just within ourselves, and saying to ourselves, yes, this happened to me. I accept it. Yes, this happened to you. I forgive you. Self. Mm-hmm. So that we can move forward. Because I don't think you can have healthy relationships with other people if you low-key don't like yourself.
Yes. And that's actually one of the things I wrote right here. Most importantly, in all that you do, forgive yourself. And even forgive them.
Yeah.
That's the Bible believer of me coming out. But, you also have to forgive them to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is that, again, going back to our culture, we need to quit covering up the things that are hurting us. We have got to get them out.
Yeah.
So we can address them. We can deal with them. And that is part of the forgiveness part. That's part of the healing part.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't addressed it, if you haven't uncovered it, if you haven't exposed it for what it is, it's kind of like what you were saying, for exactly what it is, you can't heal.
Yeah. I think one thing that is great about our culture, though, moving forward, is we have become more expressive. And we have gotten to a place where we're like, okay, I'm willing to say how this makes me feel. Yes. And a lot of people don't like it because they're like, ooh, why are you talking about that? Or, ooh, why are you saying that? Because I need to say it so I can not be a crazy banshee. Exactly. How about that?
Exactly.
So I can either keep shunning it under the rug for you, or I can live healthy. Which one, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I do applaud us for today. I think we are in more of an expressive place, almost too much. It'd be like, you ain't got to say say everything.
You don't have to put everything on social media.
Yeah, like that ain't healing energy. You ain't gotta do that.
Exactly.
You ain't gotta.
Because you know, I'm the person that's reading down my timeline with my popcorn, like, oh, what's going on now? I'm just saying.
Also, in forgiveness, now that you know you have forgiven them, whoever it is, even if it's difficult, and so they're not someone that can enter your life again, right? Or something like that.
Right.
At least you learn your tolerance level. At least you've learned your boundaries.
Yes.
Baby, I'm boundaried up. I don't want to be around certain people. I don't want to be in certain environments. And I don't feel bad about it. Why? Because my mental health matters.
Yes.
And who got to stick with me? I do.
You do. Exactly.
I do. So, in learning to forgive others and learning to forgive yourself, learn your boundaries. And we always talk about intuition, right?
Yes.
So, if you've experienced things in the past, you may have indicators now.
Yes.
That's what I like to call them. They're little bing, bing, bings. If you feel those, listen to yourself.
Yes. Discernment is real. Mm-hmm.
And do what's best for you. You don't have to be uncomfortable for other people.
Exactly.
So, if you're just tuning in, this is For the Culture, and I'm your girl, MzMuah.
And I'm the Diva.
We are talking tonight all about forgiveness because we want to be mentally happy people.
Yes.
And I think that forgiveness is really important doing that.
Yes.
And it just removes layers and bondage and all of those things. I think we're doing great. Okay, so how did your life change when you realized just how important forgiveness was?
For me, personally, it was like a burden was lifted.
Okay.
I felt lighter.
Yeah.
I guess is a good description. I felt like, okay, you know what? Now it's the rebuilding process. How do I take this and become the victor versus the victim? Because my name is Victory. That's what I say to myself.
Yeah.
You know, and I encourage, you know, if it's a matter of coming up with daily affirmations you have to look at for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Do so. If it comes to the point where you have to look in the mirror and say, I forgive me.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you have a life-changing experience, or did you just
did.
come to a place? Okay. And so you had a life-changing experience, and you said to yourself, we got to start thinking different or moving different.
Yes.
Okay. And so was it something very traumatic, or was it just something you were very sensitive to, and now you had to make this change?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I had a culmination of some things happening all at once in my life.
Okay.
When I came to the realization that forgiveness was where I had to live.
Yeah.
And I'll just share one part of it. You know, I happened to be going through a divorce at the time. You know, and when I went to see the psychiatrist, she told me, she said, you know what, everything you're kind of going through probably would have put someone else through a nervous breakdown. So, you know, that was kind of like an eye-opener for me. And I said, you know what, Renee, you can't hold on to everything this person is doing to you. You can't hold on to everything you let yourself go through. You have to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
And in forgiving myself, you know, I had gone through a whole lot of things. You know, I had gone through drastic weight gains, weight losses. You know, I had gone through losing my hair. You know, I had gone through a number of different things.
Yeah.
You know, and including, you know, I won't mention all the things because, again, you know, I have children and that is still their parent, you know, so, and I wish them the best. Right?
Yeah.
That's the PC.
I think you did so good.
You know, I tried.
You did so good. Yeah. Yes.
But, you know, again, you know, I had to forgive Renee.
Yeah.
For her part in the situation changing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's easy for us as women, especially black women, to feel like we failed in a marriage situation that did not work.
Yeah. Woo. That was a mouthful.
You know?
Yeah. I realized how important forgiveness was when my dad died. I always say he taught me how to forgive. And the reason that I say that is for this reason. In my life, like growing up, he wasn't present. And so I always heard reasons as to why he wasn't present.
Right.
So with the reasons that I heard and then his lack of presence, I came up with my own ideas as well. And I just wasn't feeling the situation. And so as I got older, he started to reach out to me. And then I could recognize it, like I have my own phone now or whatever. And I was not receptive to him.
Right.
And so that started, the earliest that I can remember was like high school, and proceeded, as I became a young adult and adult. And I just was not feeling it. But over time, he was persistent about wanting to build a relationship and this and that. And I think some of the verbiage that he used kind of triggered me.
Right.
Because I was like, well, you're using this verbiage, but you really weren't there. So even though this may have happened that way, you saying it a certain way doesn't work for me just because your presence wasn't there. And then I got the call one day that he died. And at first, when I first got the news, I was like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Because this person wasn't present. I'm good. But then as it began to settle in,
right,
and then, being his only child, I had to handle his personal affairs and all of that. And so then I began to meet the family from that side. And then I got another experience of what happened. Right? And so their side of things. And I just began to feel a level of regret and emotions and all of these things. I was asking people questions like crazy, but I was also asking myself questions like, well, why did you look at this way? Or why did you believe this? Or why did you move this way? Or why did you think that? And all of these things. And it was like a burden on me. It felt like chains. And so I got to a place where I was crying over it like hysterically because I just couldn't fathom the fact that I think a lot of times with life, we feel like we have time. We all say this one day thing, right? Oh, I'll do it one day. Oh, it'll come around one day. Or you don't know how you're going to feel when it's actually the end. Until it's the end.
Right.
Because I remember being a young adult or a teenager and thinking, oh, if he, passes or whatever, how would that ever affect me? Blah, blah, blah. You don't know what you don't know until you experience it.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yes.
And so with all of the emotions and everything that I was experiencing around the situation, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to get some therapy because other relationships were being attacked because of it as well. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this for myself. And I began to unpack the layers. And so it's okay to come to a place where you decide forgiveness is for you. Because before that, I was a person like, I stand on what I stand on. If I don't fool with you, I don't fool with you. And in some ways, I'm like that to an extent, but now I wish you healing energy.
Exactly.
I don't wish anything negative towards you. You just can't come towards me.
Exactly.
So we're talking all about forgiveness tonight, and I think it's imperative that we all work on forgiveness for ourselves. It can be totally difficult.
Yes.
This thing is not easy. And sometimes, even in forgiveness, you will have these repetitive moments.
Yes.
Where you're running things through your head like we discussed before. But you have to go through to get through.
Exactly.
You can't, jump over certain things to make the process quicker. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. You know, I think of my old pastor's wife. And again, not mentioning names because you're not going to sue me. But, I think of my old pastor's wife, and part of their testimony was that they had been tested. Catch that later. But he had been unfaithful and had children outside of their marriage. And she forgave him, and they remained married. And, I asked her, and I'm like, I'm not coming to you as my pastor's wife. I'm coming to you woman to woman. How did you forgive? Because at the time I was a young married woman, and I wanted to know in the event that I ever came up in that situation, how I would handle it. And I'm like, I don't even know that I could.
Yeah.
So it was important, and her main thing was forgiveness. And that really stuck with me. And she said, you know what? She said, it's not the children's fault that they were born into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
It is on the adults. But I had to forgive both of them because they did produce these children.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't show these children any malice.
Mm.
And that, to me, was powerful.
Woo!
I'm not saying that's a pass to cheat,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're in a marriage or a relationship or a situation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that forgiveness became the powerful tool.
Yeah. What would you say to someone that is struggling with forgiveness? Because it's not easy.
Yeah. Okay, I almost got, just right there. But that's for the radio people. Hi, newbie. But, forgiveness is not easy all the time. You can become very cold and callous if you don't forgive.
Yeah.
And like I said, and like we've been saying kind of throughout, even if it means just forgiving yourself for being in whatever happened.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that, again, is because mental health is very important.
Yeah.
Our mind is our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And even from the spiritual side of things, it speaks of that, your mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah.
Per se. If we let things fester in our heads,
Mm-hmm.
and it just lives there and lives there and lives there and lives there, eventually that becomes your reality.
Yeah.
That becomes who you are. That becomes what you do. That becomes who you focus on. And if not forgiving, you very well may act out and do the same thing to someone else.
Yeah.
So, I think forgiveness is very important for that reason alone. I would never want to do harm or do any damage to another person,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I don't want it done to myself.
Right. I will say, personally, for me, I went on a forgiveness journey because forgiveness has always been very difficult for me. And I think it was so difficult for me because, and I still struggle with this even to this day, how could people do me a way that I would never do them?
Right.
Why would they want to? Where is it coming from? Why add negativity when there's not any? I mean, I still kind of ask these questions.
Because you have such a big heart. I mean, I definitely...
Yeah. My heart is like, so I'm like, dang, why am I in these situations? Well, I decided to go on a forgiveness journey, and I did some research on forgiveness. So what that looked like for me is Google was my friend.
Yes, Google.
Oprah was my friend.
Yes, Oprah.
Ayanna Van Zandt, all these people became my friends.
Yeah.
And so I started pulling up information on forgiveness. And I started to get just different ideas, understanding, definition of what forgiveness is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know that some people just forgive easily. And then people like me, it's just something that we're just not the best at, right? So in the process, I found a number of books. I found a number of videos on YouTube. I found a number of scriptures to help me.
Yes.
After that, I created a forgiveness journal.
Awesome.
Where I started writing down some of my feelings behind different situations. I also have written letters to my abusers to express myself and release it. We talked about releasing a lot tonight.
Yes.
And so that helps you kind of get through the process. I remember after my father passed, I would just write him letters, good or bad, about how my day was, how I was feeling, what I wanted to ask him and couldn't. And I think over time that really helped. Another thing that blessed me is called FU. It is on YouTube, and it is Pastor Michael Todd. I believe I'm saying his name correctly.
Yes.
But the name of that series is Forgiveness University, and someone actually passed it on to me. And so he went through a number of sermons to tell you how to forgive, literally from the beginning to the end. And one thing that stuck with me out of that, and he gave many gems and many tools, but one of them was offense creates offense. And he did it like in illustration form.
Right.
And it helped me understand why I had these barriers up in these different situations. So forgiveness is a daily job. It is a hobby. It is a commitment. if you want to forgive people, if you want to forgive yourself, there are plenty ways to do it. But I would use your resources. I've been trying to talk all night.
It's Monday.
Is that what it is? I would use your resources, and I would seriously study that thing until you can get the healing that you need. Because at the end of the day, it's about your mental health. It's about your healing. It's not about anybody else. And I had to learn that as well.
Yes.
My forgiveness is for me.
There you go. Period.
So, if you take anything away from this, we talked about getting professional help.
Yes.
We talked about using our resources. We also talked about doing some read a book, baby.
There are lots and lots and lots of great self-help books.
Yeah.
Even on forgiveness.
Yeah. Read some things. And then once you keep reading the same thing over and over and over, and it's talking to you about releasing and healing and bondage and how you're only hurting yourself because they're living their life,
yes,
you'll start looking at things a little differently.
There you go. And that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
You know, that's another reason why you should change your focus and forgive. Because while you're over here dwelling on it, they're gone on with life.
So now that forgiveness is a part of your daily routine or your lively routine,
mm-hmm.
when offense happens to you at this point, how do you handle it?
So, honestly, at this point in my life, I have ways of kind of recognizing some things that may occur as far as an offense is concerned.
Okay. So you can feel it before it happens.
Because I've gone through some things.
Okay.
You know, so I try to avoid those kind of situations where the offense may occur.
Okay.
Or I try to avoid those people that may be offensive.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, that's one of my power tools for myself.
Yeah.
That's one of my protections for myself.
Yeah.
But, you know, in life, even people that you love and that are close to you, people can hurt you.
Yeah.
So you have to realize that people are going to be who they are.
Right.
As much as we love them, as much as we know that us as people, we wouldn't do those kind of things to them.
Yeah.
They very well may do it to us.
Yeah.
And we have to forgive them for being who they are.
Right.
And forgive us for being who we are.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to say be the bigger person,
mm-hmm.
because sometimes it's not about being the bigger person,
mm-hmm.
but it is about self-care and forgiveness.
Yeah.
So don't stay in a repetitive thing where you're just letting this person keep hurting you and keep hurting you and keep hurting you.
Yeah.
Because that's not forgiveness.
Right.
That's stupidity.
Okay, then.
And I said it. I put it on out there.
It was said there.
You know. But, you know, if it is truly a case where a person has proven to you that they want forgiveness, then please, by all means, do so.
Right.
Again, not only for them, but for yourself.
Right. And I think with how they act out of the situation, that will better help you determine what you're willing to allow moving forward. Because I think sometimes in offense, you know, people get into a place where they're like, well, wow, I didn't know I hurt you like that. Or I didn't know it was that deep to you. It wasn't that deep to me.
Right.
And so I apologize. But the hurt is still there.
Yes.
So then you have to basically come up with a way to decide how to continue to engage with them or not. And then how you're willing to do that makes you comfortable at that point. Because even if they didn't mean it, that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Exactly.
So another thing too is, now that I know how important forgiveness is for myself and for others, I don't want to say that I am dismissive, but I want to say this. I'm only going to give you so much time on my line. I'm only going to give you so much time on my timeline.
Yes.
I'm only going to give you so much time in a text.
Yes.
I'm only going to give you so much time in my space.
That's it.
Because of my healing.
Mm-hmm.
See, it has nothing to do with you.
That's right.
So you can be trying to be offensive to me. And even in that moment, it can be pain. And it can be hurtful. But I can't let it reside and fester in me. I'm probably going to remove you or separate myself from the situation because there's my boundaries and there's my little fence that I built up. And then I'm going to continue to move forward and proceed on positive and happy things.
Now, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you feel that some people will purposefully try to reenact or to hurt you so that they can feel like that you are giving forgiveness to them, or so that they can feel like there's a reason for you to depart from them? It could work both ways, I guess, is what I'm kind of asking.
So are you saying that, do I feel like people will create an alt with me, will get over it, will heal, will come back together, and then they repeat it, and so now they think because I've forgiven them before that I'm still supposed to participate?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think people do that, and that is not the case, because when that break came, that's where the healing was supposed to come through.
Right.
And that's where the maturing was supposed to come through. And if that person isn't willing to do that, then you have to call a thing. And you have to say what it is, and you have to remove yourself to save yourself. Because who's going to be with you until you expire? You.
Me.
So even though you've tried to forgive them, if you see the pattern repeating, you have to see it for what it is. And I think sometimes with us, because our hearts are big, because we're loyal, because we love on folks or whatever,
warm and fuzzies,
we don't always want to let go of things or people or relationships or whatever. And that's fine. But then you'll have to gauge how close in the future you will allow that person to be. That doesn't mean you have to cut them off completely. Sometimes it does. It depends on the level of offense and how many times it has been implicated. Because if it just keeps happening, what are you gaining by keeping the relationship?
Very true. Very true.
I feel like Dr. Phil tonight.
Come on, Dr. Phil.
I do.
Wow.
I feel like I'm dropping a few.
You're definitely dropping some gems.
Just a few gems.
Yeah.
But I really want us as a culture to work on forgiveness, because there are so many people that I hear all the time that we are walking around with our past just a part of us every single day. And in everything we see, our past is with us. And all of those offenses and all of those negative situations and all of those pains, traumas, problems are following along with us. How can we ever be happy?
You know, I look at even the murder rates within our culture. You know, it's not worth taking someone's life or losing your own because somebody stepped on your shoe.
Right.
It's not worth taking somebody's life because they may have talked to somebody that you talked to 20 years ago. It's not worth, you know, I've experienced this in my family. Rest his soul. I had a family member go over to his child's mom's house at Christmas time simply to drop off a present for his child. The new boyfriend answered the door because he was insecure and jealous, killed him. Right there on the spot. You know, it's just, those kind of things don't need to happen. Forgiveness is real.
Yeah.
You know, don't hold on to, well, if I had a bad day at work, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take out on everybody in my household. You can't do those kind of things. You know?
It's enough for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I definitely think we
and when you walk around in unforgiveness, and when you walk around in the lack of healing, I don't know the exact word, but you do kind of have this demeanor, kind of like Diva. You remember Diva coming?
Yes.
He had the theme music, he had the body, and people knew what to expect from him. He was not healed.
Not at all.
He is a great example. Diva was not healed because he was causing and wreaking havoc all the way around.
Yes.
When you are a happy person, when you are a healed person, when you are a person that believes in forgiveness of yourself and others, you do not deliberately try to cause other people pain. Yes. And when you do cause pain, you are humble enough to apologize and stand in that.
Yes.
And so the number one, I think, example for me of people to just be leery of, even yourself, if that's you, if you're so quick and easy to just pop off, ask yourself why.
There you go.
We're not in high school. We're not kids. We're adults. A lot of us have kids, grandkids. We're trying to run businesses, run offices, everything. We have too much to lose to be like this all of the time.
Exactly.
And a person that is like that, you're not as healed as you could be. But you can every day. You can take chances. You can make choices to do the right thing. And there are tools out there to help you. There are people that you can follow. One thing about me, someone said something really recently that I absolutely adore. He said, "You are so positive all the time." And I said, I try to be more optimistic than pessimistic. And I am very mindful of what I listen to. I listen to a lot of motivational things. I listen to a lot of scriptures. I listen to a lot of affirmational things.
Yes.
Because whatever is coming in, oh baby, it's going to come out.
Exactly. You have to be very careful what you feed your spirit.
Yes. So if you want to forgive, you want to be a lighter person, you want to be a healthier person, you want to be a more healed person, you can do so. But just know it's going to take one step at a time. And like we said earlier,
yes,
all forgiveness does not look the same, okay?
Yes.
So if you have someone that created a major offense over here and you can't give them the same level of forgiveness that you can give your neighbor that's always in your spot, we understand that, but just try it.
Yes. That's the word, the effort.
Yeah.
The effort will eventually lead to true forgiveness.
Yeah.
For you.
For you. And your forgiveness, like we said, is for you,
yes,
but it affects everyone around you. And that thing can go generational. Your
yes,
children are watching, your grandchildren are watching, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, everyone's watching, and you can affect your environment by your thinking as well.
Very much true. And you don't want to put those stigmas on your kids.
Yeah.
You know, again, in situations where if you know a family member is suffering from a mental illness, it's okay to be a little guarded about your children, especially depending on their ages, going around that person.
Yeah.
You know, don't have any shame in that.
Yeah.
You pray for that person, of course, and you also, you know, if they haven't gotten help, encourage them to get help.
Yeah.
But you explain to your children, okay, this is why, this is the way. This is not a discrimination. This is not a hate. You don't hate that person. You love that person.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's part of forgiveness.
I want you to give your final thought, then I'll give mine.
Wow. Okay, so my final thought would be, do what you have to do to forgive yourself. From something as simple as burning something on the stove to traumatic things. Remember, you are the victor and no longer the victim. Let it put power behind who you are and what you need to do in your life.
That was good. You better go ahead.
Jim, bam.
Yes, my final thought tonight is forgiveness is for you. And it is a path that you will have to continue to walk daily if you want to. But it can be achieved. And you're going to love the results afterwards. Baby, I used to get mad.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't allow people to have that much authority. Because if you think about it, you've already been through the trauma, right? You've already been through the pain, right? Why keep allowing people and situations to control you mentally? That's a choice, and you don't have to choose that.
Jim.
You know, we did our thing tonight. I want you guys to watch it again if you haven't. Share it with a friend because I think forgiveness is really important and we all can benefit from this.
Yes.
Our culture really needs it and hopefully we can have a safer summer. We wish you a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.